Welcome to the Hey Soul Sista podcast, where Mel Histon will guide you through life's big questions and bring you one step closer to doing this crazy journey as best you can.
Hey Soul Sisters, today on the podcast I have the fabulous Sinead Connolly with me, founder and director of Lotus People, a multi-award winning recruitment agency from Sydney. How are you going?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very happy to be here.
And I'm very happy to have you here. I'm so keen to hear more about your story, your journey from starting a recruitment agency, growing it so quickly, managing those business ups and downs, and to go on to become a multi-award winning business and business owner. Now, I need to ask you to start with, how and why did you get into recruitment? The reason why I'm asking you that is actually one of my besties owns a recruitment agency called 8 Recruitment, and she tells me all the time that it can be incredibly cutthroat, that it can be a really tough industry, the recruitment industry. I've heard many a story of behind the scenes stories of how, what goes on between different recruitment agencies. And I know she's very passionate about recruitment. So what was it that actually first drew you into recruiting?
Look, we have a line in recruitment whereby everyone who has asked that question, the answer is, I fell into it. Because I don't think we necessarily plan to have careers in recruitment. From my perspective, look, I came to Australia 11 years ago. I started working on a reception desk in a recruitment agency, and I kind of had my neck looking around the corner the entire time at everyone on the floor, and I saw them building relationships. I saw them kind of offering people jobs, and so much of what they were doing just appealed to me. So I just decided, you know what, I'm not a salesperson. I'm going to give this a go, and I have not regretted it. With regards to your point around the industry, look, I think it does have, or it has had in the past, a bad reputation. It is not necessarily a regulated industry. We have a lot of say and sway between kind of, I guess, companies and the ins and outs of what they're doing, and then candidates. So we can you could very easily operate unethically. But I honestly believe that the industry has shifted and changed so much over the last year, the last few years, I should say. And I really, really think that we are in a far better position where it just doesn't happen anymore. I'm in a group that I set up of 25 female business owners within the industry, and we all support each other. We share information, we share knowledge. I'm going to a couple of recruitment industry events this week, including the industry awards, and I'm so excited to see so many of my peers there. I just think we've reached a point, and particularly after COVID, everyone in our industry struggled and suffered during COVID. And I think after that, we've all just been like, you know what, we're better off together, we're stronger together. Yeah. Collaboration over competition.
So how old were you when you actually began in recruitment?
Yeah, 23.
Oh, you're a bubba.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and that was it.
Yeah. So how long from you starting at 23 was it before you started your own business, before you started Lotus People?
Yeah, so I was in that agency for my last agency for 4 years. I kind of worked my way up. I very quickly moved off the reception desk into a support role, and then a consultant role, and then a senior consultant role. But I actually set my business up without a huge amount of experience. I felt very passionately about the fact that the standard of service in our industry needed work. And so my friend and I, we had the exact same mentality. We were yin and yang in how we operated. And so we just thought, let's just do this. There's a lot of naivety thrown in as well, but we thought, let's just do this. Let's just bring this to market. And so I hadn't even had any management experience, and there I was setting up an agency. So I think I was 26 when I set up Lotus. So yeah, and it's our 6th year this year. So
that's freaking ballsy. When I was 26 years old, there's no way in hell I would have had the guts or the courage to go and start my own business, let alone, in Sydney, starting a professional service. Like, that is super ballsy. What was it that gave you that courage?
I love that what was it was almost masked as just why? Why did you do it? Look, I think honestly that the age stood to us. We had a lot to learn, and I'll put my hand up and say you learn very quickly when it's directly in front of you and you're doing it. And also I did partner with an established business, and so I benefited from mentorship and guidance in that respect in my business partners. But honestly, I think the fact that we were so young, we didn't have a mortgage, I still don't have kids, but we didn't have any kind of those big commitments. And I think now big decisions I make come with a lot of consideration, and I want to be measured in the decisions that I'm making. Whereas at the time it was just like, we feel passionately about this, let's just make this work. So it almost stood to us, I think.
Yeah. And so you started Lotus People with your girlfriend? Yes.
We worked together. Look, she ended up leaving the business after a year or so. She now runs a number of different businesses, but she's an industry trainer now and comes back in and is heavily involved. But at that point, that was the right decision for her. So after the first year, I was running it on my own, again, within the kind of bubble of having business partners who operated their business, and we were all in the same offices. But yeah, it was at kind of 27 to be running it on my own. It was a bit of a, oh, this is terrifying. How am I going to make this work? But you just do. You figure out what's in front of you and you just make it work. And that's kind of how I did it.
It's interesting. I saw Tony Mowbray speak once, and he was the guy who sailed in the Sydney to Hobart race years ago, where they had the big storm and the boat capsized. I can't remember the name of the boat, but I saw him speak once, and he said something that I've never forgotten. He said, in life, family, business, whatever it is, are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're interested, you'll do what's easy. But if you're committed, you'll do what it takes. And so I think for many people that start businesses, it can be and I've done it myself. When I started a photography business years ago, when I started off, I was just kind of like interested. I didn't do what it took. It took me a few years to actually get the confidence and the drive to go, no, you're in this, like you need to be committed to this. But I fluffed around for a while. But it sounds as though you were right from the beginning. You were committed, you were driven.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think when you own a business, it can get really hard. And if you aren't fully committed to it, it can get too hard. I think you need to have that kind of burning fire in your belly to want to make it work. I mean, last year is a perfect example. It was really tough for our industry. Most businesses we were working with were making redundancies and letting people go en masse. And every candidate we spoke to, rather than offering them jobs, we were giving them tips and insights as to how to secure a role. So it was really, really difficult. And I had to make redundancies in my team, and we had to downsize. And every single day we were looking at, with my head of finance, looking at cash flow reports and modeling how all of that looked. And it was just bloody hard. And so if I had kind of 50% interest in my business, if I was just doing it as a means to make money, it just wouldn't work, because the level of soul and commitment to it that was needed last year, I wouldn't have been able to pull that from anywhere unless it actually was genuinely the thing that I wanted to make sure was a priority.
Let's get soulful on social media. Search the Sister Code Facebook page and follow us on Instagram.
You started your business when you were 26. The first year you went really, really hard. Then you and your business partner decided to not part ways, but your business partner decided that she wanted to move on to other things. Did that kind of shake things up for you a little bit? Because I can imagine you're going from a shared load to a full load.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think probably the timing, I mean, how it all happened was we set up, and within our first year, it was hugely successful, which is exactly what you want. You want it to work and you want it to be successful. And so that first year was amazing. Everyone wanted to work with us. We were this new, fresh, energetic offering in the market, and we had tons of business, which was awesome, but we hadn't hired, and we didn't hire until about the 9-month mark. And even then it was kind of an admin support. So it was the two of us doing everything, all of the meetings, all of the recruitment. We were kind of doing our day job and then recruiting in the evenings. And it was very, very busy. So how the kind of first year went was this like mad upward trajectory, followed by, from my perspective, a bit of a burnout and a bit of a crash. And so I actually suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. I didn't really know what it was. And even chronic fatigue is a bit of a diagnosis by process of elimination. We don't really see anything else that it might be. So let's call it adrenal burnout. Let's call it chronic fatigue. And so that happened to me. So I was out of the business for a couple of months, and my business partner was running things on her own, and it was as mad as it was, but with one less person. And I think after that, when I was ready and well to come back into the business, at that point, I had my health and I knew exactly what I needed to do to look after myself. And so I think to answer your question, in coming back into the business with a renewed perspective, I did feel confident that, yes, I was able to do it on my own. And at that point, that is when around that stage is when she exited. But I also knew that I was never going to get myself back to that stage of burnout again, because I had these new tools and I had this new way of working, which meant that health was always going to be a priority, and the focus and balance was as well.
I think that's one of the toughest things being a business owner. And for myself, so I started a charity 5 years ago called Got You Back Sista, which, like many businesses, I mean, even though it's a charity, I run it like a business. And the first year was working at home and it was kind of just me. And then it's like, okay, I need some help. I'm going to bring a VA on for a few hours a week. Oh, now I'm going to I need an employee. And you slowly grow over time. But there's been so many times I've reached the point of burnout where I literally feel like I'm crawling through mud. But then I also go, sometimes, like, to be successful, or for your organization to be successful and to serve as it needs to, it's almost like you just kind of have to wade through it, but then go, okay, what do I need to do to stop that burnout? Because otherwise the whole thing is going to collapse. Can I ask, when you developed the chronic fatigue, what were your symptoms? How did you know that something was wrong? Because I had a girlfriend that suffered chronic fatigue for 2 years and was bedridden. And like you were saying, it was a process of elimination. They did not know what was going on for her. They thought she had a virus. She was getting tests all the time. And then finally they went, you've got chronic fatigue syndrome. What was it for you that kind of, you were like, okay, something's not right here?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, your friend, what you've described, it's similar. I think it is that feeling of, for me, it was that feeling of your nervous system just being tipped into overdrive. So almost just constantly being in fight or flight, running from the moment you wake up, your brain's alert, running from one meeting to the next meeting to the next thing, and actually your body never feeling fully rested. So that manifested for me in brain fog. It manifested in very low immunity, so very easily able to pick up colds and flus, and so sick with those sorts of things. I think the main trigger was that I got a cold, and it lasted for about 2 weeks, and my colds always kind of then ended up being a virus, and then kind of ended up flattening me for a couple of weeks. And I've always kind of had that kind of go fast and then body doesn't want to keep up anymore approach. Like, that is often how I work with my energy, which is an absolute work in progress and something I'm still working on. So I was used to that happening, getting a cold, getting sick, being knocked out for a week or two. But that happened to me and I didn't get better. I essentially didn't get my energy back. I didn't have the ability to kind of just go, okay, I'm back to normal now. It's almost like my body was just then tipped into a place of complete exhaustion. And so for me, it was being bedridden. It was having my brain just being constantly alert and constantly, like the amygdala constantly being in overdrive. And so it really did take a lot of work to bring me back to a place of homeostasis. But yeah, definitely a number of different symptoms. But I think that all of what you would expect out of full total burnout of just being completely exhausted, I definitely experienced all of that.
Do you get fearful about it coming back?
It's a really good question. And the odd time, if I have a cold and it lasts maybe a couple of days longer than it should, I might get like a mild wave of anxiety, being like, oh my God, am I going to go back there? But also I just know that I was living at a completely unsustainable pace for me. Everyone works at different paces and everyone's aware of their own limitations. But for me, it was completely unsustainable. The hours that we were working in a day, eating dinner at the office every night, and just the pace, like just the pure pace of everyone kind of wanting things from you and you delivering constantly. Like, it's just that never actually kind of taking a step back and slowing down. So yes, I think it's a tricky one and everyone's different, but I definitely know that I will never go back there because I'll never live my life like that again. And that's reassuring. I know that what I put myself through, it was a once-off.
Yeah. So how do you do things differently now?
A lot of focus on, so I meditate every day. Sometimes I only have time for 5 minutes, but I still do it. I move at a different pace. So instead of, I'm in a service industry, I want to deliver. And so I catch myself, and I've done it this morning, people say, great, we want you to start as soon as tomorrow. And I go, okay, brilliant, let's do it. And I'll have it delivered by Friday. And then I go, no, catch yourself. Wednesday is perfectly feasible instead of Friday.
Perfectly acceptable.
Exactly. So it's kind of balancing that desire to want to deliver and to do a good job and that kind of drive for success, which I have, and to do a good job by the clients that I'm working with, balancing that with what's realistic and what's reasonable. And that sounds really basic and really rudimentary, but it is something that I battle with, because I am a high achiever and I want to do everything now immediately. So it's a combination of, I guess, self-care and putting things like that in place, having a good routine around exercise, and also just knowing my limitations.
Want to fill your soul with more? Go to thesisterco.com.
You've gone on to win numerous awards, which is really cool, including Young Entrepreneur at the age of 28. You're still in your 20s and you're winning Young Entrepreneur Award. You have won Recruiter of the Year. You have won Best Small Agency. You've won, Young Entrepreneur from the Irish Australian Chamber of Commerce. You've won lots of awards, which is awesome. So I'm guessing to actually be, I'm going to use the word good enough, but it's not good enough. But you're outstanding, you and your business. What have you learned at such a young age about leadership and about culture? Because, from the reading that I did about you and your business, that's something that you really pride yourself on.
Yeah, and thank you. Yes, it's been an amazing journey. And I think for me, I don't want to do this if we're not doing it well. We could so easily have a recruitment agency that have people who are making money and we're in the market and we exist and we're okay at what we do. And that just isn't me. That goes against the grain of how I operate as a person. If we're going to do something, I want to do it properly. I think, to answer your question, the three things I focus on and the things that I care deeply about are people experience. And so for me, that's the threefold is the candidate experience, the client, which we're very well known for and we do a lot of work around, the client experience, which is obviously delivery, and our internal team experience. And that's all people experience. I care about the people that I interact with having a positive experience and coming away feeling like they have had a good interaction and that they're in good hands. And whether that is our internal team or the people we deal with, or again, with the candidate side, often candidates are forgotten about within the recruitment process. There's a lot of stats and data out there to support the fact that candidates feel like they just do not have a positive experience whilst looking for work. And so all of that comes from just a desire to make sure that people are looked after. And that's genuinely where I come from as a leader. And that's the thing that even though I was a young leader, that has always been a focus. And I think you garner respect and you kind of build authentic relationships with the various different people that you deal with and you work with when that is your primary focus, because people can see that you care.
When you were younger, were you a leader then, like in school? Have you always been like a school leader or a leader with your friends? Is that an innate thing or is it something that you've learned?
I think so, but I think as girls, it's bossy rather than...
No, because you know why I asked that? Because I was watching The Apprentice last night, The Celebrity Apprentice, and I haven't watched a lot of that show, but I watched it last night with my son and his girlfriend, and it was good bonding, good family bonding over The Apprentice. And there was a young girl who was the Miss Australia, I can't even remember her name. Anyway, doesn't matter. If you're watching The Apprentice, you'll know who I'm talking about. She's this gorgeous young Miss Australia, entered into Miss Universe. So she was like the intruder, the new person that had come into the show kind of like a few episodes in, and they'd popped her in a team. And when they were working out the challenge, they were like, who's going to be the project manager? And she's like 25, 26. And she was like, I'll be the project manager. And so you could see everybody in the team's a bit like, oh, God, how's she going to go? She's so young. She's just come in. She hasn't been a part of this. And I was watching going, wow, you're so young. How are you going to go? And she absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. They won the challenge. And I was watching her going, wow, you have really got something. She reads the weather over in WA on the news channel. So I'm guessing she probably hasn't had a lot of experience project managing people. But I go, there's something about her, that X factor, where she has innate leadership abilities and qualities. And so that's how I'm going, that could be you. I think it might be you.
Some of it is innate. And I think the beauty of kind of being a business owner is that you get to gravitate towards what you're good at and you gravitate towards your natural strengths. And I think that if people do that in life as employees, as parents, whatever we are, I think if you just lean on what you are naturally good at, you will find it to be more enjoyable. You will find the day-to-day to be more enjoyable because you're thriving rather than forcing yourself into a box that doesn't necessarily fit. But yeah, I totally agree.
Want to save your soul? Review us on Apple Podcast.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question now. And it's a question, I suppose, because I've come up against this. So I'm really curious to see whether you have, especially being a younger businesswoman and who became a business owner at a young age and being a woman. Have you come up against any of the misogyny or disrespect or not being treated well by other professional men in your industry or that you've worked with?
Yes, very good question. Look, I think that our industry as a whole does have very good gender balance. I think that women or men, you can be a great recruiter. What I did notice when I first started going to recruitment industry events and awards many years ago, 5-6 years ago, was that when you get to the top level, it's mostly just men. And that was the catalyst for me starting my women's agency owner network, where I wanted for us to be leveraged and kind of lifted up to the next level, because I knew that we were the minority. And so that is definitely something I've noticed. Look, I've had situations with certain men in certain industries where they kind of want the more experienced person in the room, and you kind of get the sense from them there's a bit of bravado. Certain industries that are probably more male dominated, I've had experiences of feeling maybe young and maybe female, but it's always, I mean, again, as the owner of the business, I get to walk away based on values and based on a lack of value of environment. But it's definitely, I'm very, very lucky in that it's definitely not been, because this isn't just a male-dominated industry, it hasn't been something that's been a consistent issue. I've noticed it because I think, how could you not? It is the state of the world. Yeah. But definitely not an ongoing kind of, issue or drama for me.
Well, that's wonderful, because I've shared on Hey Soul Sista before when we've done other episodes. When I was in my 20s, I worked for an organisation which was very male dominated, and they were some of the men, and they were older men in their 50s and 60s. They were actually foul. I'm going to call it foul. Yeah. And the way they would speak to me, the way they would treat me and other women. So, that's, and I like to, you kind of hope in this day and age that times are changing, because, I'd like to say that was yesterday, but it was 20 years ago. So you hope that we've progressed with that whole gender equity, although apparently we still have another ways to go. And what are they saying, 26 years? They say before there'll be gender parity across pays for women and, in organisations and things.
There's so much work to be done, so much work to be done. It's never blatant. I never see in a company that men are paid explicitly more than women. It's never as obvious as that, but it's subtly there. It's absolutely there, and there's a lot of work to be done on it, I believe.
So you've been on a really big journey over the last 6, 7, 8 years. What wisdoms have you learned about business?
Oh, goodness. I do think that the resilience that you can create and muster and lean back on in times of difficulty, it's amazing how that can translate to your own life as well. I think that having a business and being in business in my own experience, I really do believe that we are stronger than we think we are. And through my own journey of being unwell and being sick and then running a business and having ups and downs with that, I do think that I'm stronger for it. I'm able for anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with just about anything, but I would be able for it, I'm certain.
Yeah. And do you know what? I kind of believe, and certainly this is my experience during the COVID, you have a choice. You kind of, when things like global pandemics or challenges or whatever happen, it's like, you can go and curl up in the corner of the room in the fetal position or rock back and forth, or you can actually dig deep and go, no, this is going to be really tough, but I'm going to get through that.
You're allowed there sometimes. We're only human, but you have to get back up again. No, absolutely. And I think the other thing, I have a learner brain. I absolutely love learning. I'm a sponge. The more that I can learn, the better and the happier that I am. And so I think that if you have that mentality and that openness and willingness to learn, then running a business and being in business is a very good vessel and container for that. So definitely having an open mind towards just absorbing information is something that I've really, looked at as a positive over my last few years.
What's the best bit of advice you've ever received?
Exactly tying in, and I always think of it exactly tying in with what I just said. My first ever manager said to me, never stop learning. Even if it's every day, just picking up a newspaper or reading a new book or just kind of ongoing, more formal studies, never stop learning. And that's always stayed with me. And I definitely embody that in the amount of information I absorb day to day.
Yeah.
Want to fill your soul with more? Go to thesistercode.com.
What's next for you?
We're at a really, really exciting stage. The market, the employment market has absolutely bounced back. Everybody is in hiring mode. Actually, during COVID, we launched a new division, a HR division, where we now recruit senior HR professionals. I've just hired someone into that division. My other team of 10 are absolutely thriving. So we're primed for kind of this next stage of growth, which is really exciting. And all I want to do is fly to Ireland to see my family. Definitely on the list. I will get there at some point soon, but that is an imminent goal as well.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I can't wait for flights to open up again. I think in 2019, I did 5 international trips that year. And then going into 2020, I was like, I'm not doing any travel. I'm just going to have a year off. And it was totally enforced. There was no choice. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Oh, funny. And just to close up, my friend, what have you learnt about yourself on this crazy journey through life?
That I can handle a lot. The resilience piece is key. I think like I said before, I think you're stronger than you think. And as long as you are building genuine, strong, authentic, meaningful relationships around you, you can handle just about anything.
Well, thanks so much for coming on Hey Soul Sister. And I can't wait to share this episode out because you're an awesome, inspirational businesswoman with a lot of soul. So thanks so much, Sinead, for coming on Hey Soul Sister.
Thank you so much. My absolute pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Hey Soul Sister with Mel Histon. What would help you on your crazy life journey? Email Melissa at thesistercode.com.